The chief executive and other top officials urge civil servants and the public to vote in the coming district council election. A Hong Kong-bound China Eastern Airlines flight diverted to Xiamen after encountering technical problems. And 4 killed in an explosion during a Catholic Mass in the southern Philippines. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Yes, we are here tonight. Chief Executive John Lee said today that civil servants are obliged to support government policies. Lee made the comment at the District Council Election Family Day. Memo Singai reports.
The 2023 District Council Ordinary Election will be held next Sunday. To encourage civil servants and their family members to vote on that day, a District Council Election Family Day was held in Wan Chai, organized by the Discipline Services Consultative Council and the Police Force Council. Chief Executive John Lee said the work of district councillors are important because everyone lives in one of the city's 18 districts. The CE added that civil servants have the obligation to support the election and the government. Meanwhile, other government officials also promoted the election, urging members of the public to cast their ballots on election day. The Transport and Logistics Bureau released a video showing Secretary Lam Sai-hong's visit to the MTR's Kowloon Bay depot. Lam distributed election promotional leaflets to MTR staff, telling them to vote along with their families next Sunday. Similarly, Financial Secretary Paul Chen also encouraged eligible voters to cast their ballots. Your vote can determine the development of a better community, he said. Secretary for Security Chris Tan also mentioned the polling day while attending an event. He hopes residents can cast their votes wisely on the coming Sunday. Secretary for Education Choi Yok-ling reminded voters about their responsibility, saying they should be a good role model for the youth. Moreover, flags and posters promoting the election can be spotted almost everywhere in the city. News 9, TVB News.
Wang Yanlong, former chairman of the Advisory Committee on Mental Health, says the implementation time of the 3-tier school-based emergency mechanism to prevent student suicides can be adjusted. Recently, the city has seen a surge in student suicide cases. Last Friday, the authorities launched a 3-tier school-based emergency mechanism, which will last for 2 months. Some say the mechanism should stay in place longer than that. Speaking on a TVB program, former chairman of the Advisory Committee on Mental Health, Wang Yanlong, said the mechanism is an urgent measure to tackle the situation. He believes the government will take another look at the situation to decide whether the measure should be extended or adjusted. A Hong Kong-bound China Eastern Airlines flight that departed from Shanghai was diverted to Xiamen after it reported engine problems. Some mainland sources said a number of passengers heard loud bangs and smelled something burning. Several videos posted on social media showed a heavy vibration inside the aircraft. Some passengers could be seen grasping tightly onto their seats. The China Eastern Airlines website noted the affected flight was MU721, involving an Airbus A330 aged 6.5 years. The flight left Shanghai Hongqiao International Airport at around 8:30 this morning. It was scheduled to arrive in Hong Kong at 10:50 a.m. A flight tracking website indicated that after flying for an hour and 40 minutes, the plane flew at a lower altitude and landed safely in Xiamen at around 10 a.m. In the Philippines, a powerful explosion ripped through a Catholic Mass today, killing at least 4 people and wounding dozens of others. The blast occurred in Marawi in the southern Philippines, a city that was under siege by Islamic State militants for 5 months in 2017. Regional Military Commander Major General Gabriel Viray III said 3 of the dead were women, while 50 others were taken to hospital. At least 2 of the wounded were fighting for their lives. Army troops and police were put on high alert. The explosion, believed to be a bomb blast, was described as a terrorist act and blamed on the Philippine-based Islamic State militants. Urging calm, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. vowed on social media to bring the perpetrators to justice. 11 Islamic State combatants were reportedly killed by Filipino troops on Saturday. Israel pounded targets in crowded southern Gaza and ordered more neighborhoods designated for attack to evacuate. This as the United States used stronger language to urge Israel to protect civilians soon after a 7-day truce collapsed. Israel recalled its negotiators from Qatar and Hamas said any further swap of Gaza-held hostages for Palestinians imprisoned by Israel would only happen as part of ending the war. Nazvi Karim has more.
A Gaza night sky lit up like never before, with residents reporting the heaviest bombardment by Israeli warplanes since October 7th. The quiet of a truce may have ended just days ago, but it is a distant memory for Gaza residents. This as Israel comes under increasing pressure from its closest ally, the United States, to protect civilian lives, with Vice President Kamala Harris and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin sending that message home. But the deaths continue to rise, with Gaza officials saying almost 200 people have been killed since hostilities resumed, with hundreds more wounded. In Shujaya, near Gaza City, 60 died and 300 remain buried under rubble after strikes on dozens of residential buildings. In Jabalia, dozens reportedly were killed, while airstrikes also caused deaths in Khan Yunis, Rafah, Al-Fallujah and other areas, dividing Gaza into numbered parcels on an online map and asking residents to identify with a specific number in case they are asked to evacuate. The U.S. Defense Secretary, speaking at the Reagan National Defense Forum in California's Simi Valley, made his strongest comments yet on the need to protect civilian lives.
And if you drive them into the arms of the enemy, you replace a tactical victory with a strategic defeat. So I have repeatedly made clear to Israel's leaders that protecting Palestinian civilians in Gaza is both a moral responsibility and a strategic imperative.
Harris, before she left the COP28 climate forum in Dubai, spoke with some Arab leaders about the crisis in Gaza and insisted Israel's right to defend itself must comply with international law.
As Israel defends itself, it matters how. The United States is unequivocal. International humanitarian law must be respected. Too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Frankly, the scale of civilian suffering and the images and videos coming from Gaza are devastating.
Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
One person died and 2 others were injured after being attacked by a man with a knife near the Eiffel Tower in Paris. An anti-terrorism investigation is underway. The dead man is German and was part of a tourist group which was attacked by a man with a knife. A British man was injured. Police chased the assailant across a bridge. He then hit others with a hammer before being arrested. The man shouted in Arabic and told police he was seeking revenge for atrocities against Muslims. The attacker has not been named, but the French Interior Ministry says he is a French national who is under surveillance and undergoing psychiatric treatment. Still ahead, a snowstorm causes travel chaos in Germany. At the COP28 climate conference in Dubai, China and the United States announced cooperative measures to address methane emissions. And a joint Hong Kong mainland treatment program for cataract patients in Laos. Welcome back to TVB News. Germany is in the grip of a cold snap. There was huge transport disruption in Munich with flights grounded and trains canceled. Other areas of Europe ranging from the United Kingdom to the Czech Republic have also been fighting the elements. David Garrett reports.
Aeroplanes snowed in. Munich was forced to close its airport for about 24 hours. Around 40 centimetres of snow fell on the city in a matter of hours. The airport reopened Sunday, but was still trying to clear the backlog. There were long queues on Saturday as travellers waited for information. Most were just told their flights were cancelled and it was unclear when they would be able to travel.
They have told us to wait up to 12 o'clock. I was here since 5 p.m. in the morning at dawn. And it's too much stress. With 3 children, it's not easy. So for now, we don't know. We don't know.
Like the planes, trains were also affected. High-speed services out of Munich were halted on Friday night. Some trains were stopped mid-journey, forcing passengers to sleep in their seats. This forced some to take to the roads, which caused more problems. Some highways were blocked as traffic backed up. Several accidents were reported with icy conditions, making roads treacherous. Bayern Munich's football match with Union Berlin was postponed. The Allianz Arena was barely visible in the blizzard. With temperatures at -5 Celsius and snow continuing to fall, even the ski lifts at winter resorts stopped operating. These children took sledges to the slopes in a scene that could have come from a Christmas card. So while some were annoyed and inconvenienced by the snow, others loved it.
Ich find's super.
I don't know, I like the snow, so it doesn't bother me too much. Yes, it would have been nice not to have to free my car from the snow, but it doesn't really affect me too much.
The Czech Republic shivered in Arctic conditions. Prague saw its heaviest snowfall this year, with 15 centimetres on Saturday. The country endured its own travel disruption, and at least the same amount of snow is expected to fall again in the coming days. Parts of the United Kingdom were coated in white as Scotland and northern counties saw similar amounts of snow as Prague. Thousands of homes have lost electricity. Several sports events were called off. Cumbria police declared a major incident and told people not to use the roads unless absolutely necessary.
At the United Nations COP28 climate conference in Dubai, China and the United States announced cooperative measures to address methane emissions. At a special session on methane emissions with his American counterpart John Kerry, Xie Zhenhua, China's special envoy on climate, said Beijing welcomed cooperation with the U.S. He called for concrete measures, capital support, and a feasible technical pathway to combat climate change. Xie said China is willing to make greater efforts to control its methane emissions, admitting the country has had a late start because of a weak foundation. He said it's not easy for China to control non-carbon dioxide gases, and it requires long-term efforts and much capacity building. On the eve of last month's summit between President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Joe Biden, China and the U.S. made a joint pledge to accelerate efforts to address climate change. Next, a problem with the polar bear capital of the world. The polar bear invasion is overrunning a small town very far north in Canada because there isn't enough ice in their natural habitat. This report from NBC News.
Polar bears draw tourists to tiny Churchill, Canada. Here, where the forest stops and the tundra starts, they come to see the bears make their annual trek back to Hudson Bay's sea ice to feed on seals.
Want to know how close you can get? Take a look. We're about 12 feet from this polar bear.
Fine from a protected buggy, but dangerous. When hungry bears come to town. And when they are spotted, Conservation Sergeant Ian Van Nest gets the call.
And we're going to be there in about 1 minute.
His polar bear alert team on this day tracking bears at 5 a.m. in the town of 900 people.
Judging by the size of the tracks, that's a sub-adult.
One of the bears was spotted near our hotel. It was a juvenile. The warning shots woke us up. When they find one of the bears,
we'll haze them to the west.
They fire shotgun blanks in the air to scare it away.
It's all about trying to steer that bear in the right direction.
By afternoon, it's a day to remember.
There's been 6 that have tried to walk into the town today.
6?
Yes.
Is that an unusually high number? Is that the most in one day?
Today's set the record for this season.
Government officials say this year they're seeing more than twice as many bears in town compared to 2022. On the tundra where the bears belong, Polar Bear International's Jeff York says the lack of sea ice due to climate change is the problem.
The longer these bears are on shore, the more likely they're going to start looking for alternative sources of nutrition. That could be communities, it could be human food, it can also be other bears.
How hungry are these bears?
These bears have been generally fasting for 5 months.
An issue we first saw in 2013.
As a result, polar bears like this mother and cub that you see behind me, they now must spend an extra month on land. 10 years later, the risk is even greater. Researchers say the polar bear population here in western Hudson Bay has declined 27% in the last 5 years. The bears are smaller, and this year the sea ice is taking even longer to form,
increasingly putting Churchill in danger. Next year, York hopes to add something called BearDar.
Status alert.
To detect threatening bears.
So, Jeff, what is this?
This is the tower. This is the BearDar.
This is it.
But Churchill Mayor Mike Spence is just as worried about that other threat, the changing climate.
How much do you worry that one day Churchill will no longer be the polar bear capital of the world?
Well, I mean, yeah, you think of it at times, naturally. You know, we're pretty proud of the fact that this community is pretty special, that there's no other place like it. So we do our part to make sure that we can continue to coexist.
A town doing its part, hoping the rest of the world does the same. Ann Thompson, NBC News, Churchill, Manitoba.
Back locally, the Independent Commission Against Corruption has charged an insurance agent turned immigration officer of defrauding an insurance company of more than $130,000. The 29-year-old defendant, surnamed Yao, previously served as a high-level relationship manager for insurance company MetLife before joining the immigration department. He and 2 others are accused of impersonating agents handling 5 insurance applications. Yao was charged with 1 count of intention to defraud. He will appear at the Eastern Magistracy on Monday. Over the past year, Chinese doctors have performed cataract surgeries on local residents of the Southeast Asian nation of Laos. The project is a joint effort by Hong Kong humanitarian organization members and medical personnel from Guangxi on the mainland. TVB News spoke with some of them to hear about their experiences in helping the Lao community. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Cataract surgeries are considered simple and widely accessible across the mainland and Hong Kong, but it is a luxury in Laos. Starting last year, the GX Foundation began providing humanitarian assistance and cataract surgeries for people living in the Southeast Asian nation, with doctors from the mainland and Hong Kong retelling their experiences on the ground. Xu Fan, the team leader of the Guangxi medical team stationed in Laos, recalled the time he took care of a crippled male patient and that he was touched by the faith the Lao locals had in them. Xu noted the mainland received much medical aid from the world in the past and that it was time for his nation to repay the favor. Chen Xiaofen, a nurse from the same team, said her team once performed cataract surgeries for 5 members of the same family. She remembered an old female patient who grasped her hand, saying that she believed she would see again someday. Chen said the team's deepest desire is to help the patients see again. Besides medical personnel from China, members of the local Lao community have also contributed to efforts to restore the eyesight of their compatriots.
They like my second hands. Everyone is so important and support medical team for other logistics and other things that if medical team need it. We're from different backgrounds and we're from different countries, but the things that I think that we have the same one is we want to help.
Gao Xiaoyan, a Laotian interpreter of Chinese descent, said her work does not merely involve translation, but also to serve as a bridge between doctors and patients. Although she never studied medicine, Gao learned how to use some of the medical tools provided by the team and considers herself half an ophthalmologist. Meanwhile, Emily Yao, a representative from the SAR in the project, stressed that while dealing primarily with elderly patients, the team's work affected the well-being of entire families. After witnessing the healthcare conditions in Laos, Yao reminded Hong Kong residents to be thankful to be able to benefit from the city's medical system. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow at the usual time.